Welcome back to our channel 217 Prince YT. We explain the air was pierced by the wail of emergency sirens, shrill and urgent, echoing across the dense skyline of Seoul. From every rooftop speaker, the warning blared. A dungeon break had occurred at the Korean National University of Arts. Below, chaos stirred. The announcement spread like wildfire. Residents in the vicinity are advised to evacuate immediately. Military trucks and tactical units flooded the streets, their boots slamming against concrete as they rushed to establish a perimeter. The city, vibrant only moments ago, now recoiled in dread beneath the weight of an invisible threat. A unit commander clenched his fist, his voice tight with helplessness. Damn it, we just have to watch people die like this? Barely visible behind a rising curtain of smoke and mana. When will the Hunter Association's dispatch arrive? Another soldier beside him shook his head grimly. It takes time to assign an A rank or higher, but this was marked as a D rank dungeon. The first man narrowed his eyes. That's what we were told. But if it's taking this long, a third voice cut in, sharper. They think the dispatched hunters have been infected. Silence fell. One soldier stared at the tablet in his hands. On the screen, the image of a man labeled. Name, Kim Jong-soo. Position, tank. Rank, C. Are you saying a C rank hunter might be infected too? Inside the building, the reality of that fear was already unfolding. Suho staggered up from shattered concrete, his clothes torn, his knuckles scraped raw. Dust clung to his breath as he looked up, as locking with a new threat. C-rank awakened mist burn. The pressure it radiated was different. Denser. Meaner. More intelligent. That scared me. He glanced to the side, heart pounding. The creature hadn't even attacked yet, and already Suho could feel the difference in its presence. This one wasn't like the mist burns from before. Did it run up from the floor below? He wondered. He clenched his fist, stepping forward. Judging by the pressure it's releasing, this thing's completely different from the others. But I just leveled up a little while ago. So maybe it's worth a fight. The moment hung still, electric. Then, the mist burn charged. Suho met it head on. But its speed, unreal. The creature's limbs moved like bladed wind, cleaving through the concrete walls around them with deadly precision. Suho's eyes widened as he ducked, stumbling back. The mist burn roared with unnatural rage, eyes glowing a cursed violet. Crazy. It wasn't just powerful, it was feral. And this fight had only just begun. The mist burn's body pulsed with malicious energy, its red-edged figure slicing through the air like a specter of death. Its crimson aura crackled, its laughter low and feral. The creature bolted forward, its footsteps thunderous and rapid, each stride bursting with explosive force as it tore through the corridor like a predator on the hunt. Suho threw a fire extinguisher toward the monster. And then boom, a blast occurs in the room. Suho took the advantage of this situation and launched himself toward the door. Suho's heart pounded as he dashed in the opposite direction, the chilling pressure of the monster's presence clinging to him like ice in his lungs. He ducked behind a corner, breath caught short, as the sound of shattered tiles and guttural snarls grew closer. It's impossible to fight such a monster. The thought screamed in his mind. The ranks of the awakened exist for a reason. Panic clawed at the edges of his resolve. If I could just hold out, just until another hunter arrives. But the mist burn was relentless. Its blade dragged against the walls, leaving behind glowing scars, its jagged smile unchanging. Behind him, Suho saw terrified civilians huddled together in a stairwell, students frozen, helpless. And the beast had seen them too. The monster launches himself towards the student. And he strikes the students, then slash. Suho's gaze sharpened. His breath slowed. We don't have time to wait for the hunter. The ground beneath him cracked as he launched himself forward, raw mana burning in his fists. With a sharp growl and eyes lit like twin stars, he surged back into the path of the monster, not with certainty, but with everything he had left to give. Suho strikes against the monster, the shockwave of the impact rippling through his limbs. But his will refused to break. I have to stop this thing. Ahead, the infected awakened surged through the air with murderous intent. One swipe of its blade cut through the hallway like a guillotine through paper. Suho's instinct screamed that one wrong step would mean certain death. Just one hit, and I'll die. His heart thundered, but his eyes refused to look away. From behind the dust-filled corridor, a brief memory flashed, classmates huddled, helpless, faces frozen in fear. But I can't let this thing run free. Roaring with defiance, Suho launched forward. His fist collided with the corrupted awakened's face, and the two figures blurred into a frenzy of movement. Blows were exchanged in rapid succession, flesh, bone, and shadow tearing through the corridor with unnatural speed. The infected swung wildly, but Suho ducked, twisted, and retaliated. His attacks were desperate, wild, but fierce with purpose. A surge of power flowed through his veins, his fists glowing, each strike faster than the last. He was giving everything, pouring all he had into one relentless counteroffensive. He aimed for the throat, then the temple, then the ribs. He knew it wouldn't be enough, but he didn't stop. Then strike, in a blur of brutal momentum, Suho was struck. His body spun, crashing into the wall with a heavy thud. Ugh! Blood sprayed from his mouth as he staggered, barely able to stay on his feet. The debris clouded everything. Suho emerged battered and bleeding, but alive. He glanced down. A system prompt flickered before him. HP, 1/140. His breath hitched, sweat dripping from his chin. 1. How lucky. A weak smile formed despite the blood. He was still in the fight. Blood smeared his hands, his breath labored as Suho stared up into the sky, dazed and trembling. The faint glow of the system still hovered in his mind like a whisper. Was it watching him? Guiding him? Or refusing to let him fall? He didn't know. But something didn't want him to die yet. Across the hallway, the Searank awakened mist burned snarled, black mist rising from his corrupted flesh. Its steps thundered towards Suho with murderous intent, unaware of the quiet but sudden surge within the young hunter's body. Lightning flickered. A pulse. Then again, stronger. The system was responding. And Suho moved. Blue current crackled from beneath his skin. Surged into motion. Monster threw himself forward with all the might. Fatigue 99. His vision blurred. His muscles screamed. Damn, he muttered through clenched teeth. But there was no time to rest. With every ounce of energy, Suho launched himself into a spinning strike, his fist meeting the monster's corrupted blade arm. Sparks exploded from the collision, air ruptured with thunderous impact. The hallway shook as both forces collided in a blinding burst of speed and violence. The creature reeled, but didn't fall. Monster's own blood splattered across the tiles. On the other side, the Berserker-class beast lunges with frenzied madness, but its assault is met with a volley of furious shadow spikes, black tendrils of sharpened energy slicing through the air like fangs of vengeance. One by one, the shadow blades pierce through its limbs, severing its strength and leaving trails of crackling energy and blood in their wake. From every angle, the darkness carves through it with surgical precision. The creature howls, twisted and broken, overwhelmed by the sheer force pressing in. And then, one final strike erupts. A massive surge of shadow magic slams the beast backward. Outside, a flash of light bursts from the crumbling facade. Debris rains across the streets as the creature's mangled form sails into the open, trailing trails of smoke and shadow residue. The building groans beneath the supernatural pressure, and then an explosion of energy blasts through, hurling a spiraling shockwave across the skyline. Civilians and security forces flinch. Soldiers cry out in alarm, their armor clattering as a wave of power ripples outward from the epicenter. Their eyes go wide. The sky splits with light, and the pulse of ancient magic trembles through the very foundation of the city. The light filters down like divine judgment. And within it, Suho breathes heavily, battered, bleeding, but unbroken. His shadow twitches unnaturally, whispering power. Then, from the void, a voice resonates. Neither wind nor echo, but something that claws straight into the soul. It's been a while since I last greeted you. The shadows stir behind him, deeper and colder than death. Young monarch. The room was still, except for the frantic fluttering of tiny black limbs. A shadowy creature squirmed desperately in Suho's hand, squashed between fingers and pride. Despite the creature's squeals, its form was more adorable than threatening, its struggle bordering on comedic. Just moments earlier, the little being had found itself the muse of a young boy's imagination. Crayon sketches littered the floor in a chaotic mosaic of childish creativity. At the center of it all sat a small child, diligently pressing color into paper. He drew not monsters, but memories, towering ant warriors, a solemn shadow with glowing eyes. They weren't just doodles. They were echoes. The boy paused, sensing something behind him. His wide eyes blinked in surprise as a silhouette loomed over his shoulder. He turned slowly, and there it was. The towering figure of the ant warrior, clad in memory and mystery, standing right above him. The boy's eyes stretched in wonder, his drawing still fresh on the floor between them. The ant's gaze dropped to the paper. It murmured, recognizing the crude but earnest depiction of itself. Young monarch, could it be that you drew me? A trembling hand touched its chest, as if trying to keep emotions from spilling out. The ant's giant frame wavered, overwhelmed. I'm so touched. Light spilled into the next scene, drawing Suho back from dreams tangled in shadows and nostalgia. He lay in a hospital bed, sunlight filtering across the room, bandages brushing against his skin. His eyes cracked open, confusion flooding in as consciousness returned. He blinked again, slowly propping himself up. "An ant," he whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. The memory of that towering figure lingered in his mind. But this wasn't a dream. The ant had been real. The scene opens with a sweeping aerial view of a hospital complex, its helipads glowing under the morning light, and a sense of urgency lingering in the quiet of recovery. Inside one of the rooms, Suho sits upright, freshly bandaged but already back in motion. His phone rings with sharp tension. "Suho, what is this sudden disaster? You're not hurt, are you?" The voice from the other end is frantic, crackling with concern. Suho, still exhausted but composed, raises the device to his ear. His voice remains calm. "I'm okay, uncle." His uncle's voice tightens further. "This won't do. With the world in such turmoil, I'll assign a few awakened bodyguards to you." But Suho's mind drifts. As the call continues, the narration takes over. His inner thoughts echo against the sterile room. "When I opened my eyes, 2 days had already passed. A television nearby flickers with live news. A solemn anchor delivers grim updates. The nation trembles under the weight of uncertainty. The government's response to the Korea National University of Arts incident has stirred the entire country. The incident, which resulted in numerous casualties, has become a topic of great interest. Flashes of the chaos flicker onto the screen. Hunters locked in deadly combat, the demonic form of Mistburn leering in the shadows. Mistburn, a creature that infects hunters and twists them into demons. Despite the incident happening in the heart of the city, the Hunter Association's response was delayed. The press conference erupts with outrage. Camera flashes and questioning voices fill the room. The weight of failure hangs over those who had arrived too late. And even after the hunters showed up, a deeper mystery lingered. The Mistburns inside the university were already dead, slaughtered by something far more powerful. Their bodies had been torn apart in ways no ordinary hunter could manage. Those who witnessed the aftermath couldn't understand what they had seen. Suddenly, the demons, those twisted humans, began to explode in front of their eyes. One of the students, pale with shock, recounts the horror to the media. "The moment they turned, they just exploded, right in front of us." The mystery deepens, and somewhere beneath it all, the truth of Suho's power stirs in silence. In the silence of the hospital room, Suho sat alone in the shadows, his face partially lit by the faint glow of the television. A sharp glint from the screen flickered across his eyes, but his thoughts ran deeper than the news. "So it turns out," he murmured to himself. Awakening wasn't a dream after all. Rising from the sheets, the stiffness in his body reminded him that he had faced death and somehow survived. But more than that, something inside him had changed. Strength, power, it coursed through him in ways he couldn't explain. An awakened person, and one who grows stronger with every level. The status window flickered into view before him. Status window, name, Song Suho. Level, 5. Occupation, none. Fatigue, 0. Title, none. HP, 140. MP, 14. Strength, 22. Stamina, 14. Intelligence, 14. Perception, 14. Available points, 0. Passive skills, none. Active skills, ruler's authority level 0.1. He stared in awe, absorbing every number and word as if they were etched into his bones. It was all real, every bit of it. Then the question hit him. How did he even survive? "I was injured while fighting that C-rank awakened Mistburn. How am I even alive?" Just then, a voice echoed in the room. "It's because Baru took care of those pests." Suddenly, a ripple of shadow curled at the base of the bed, like ink spilling across the floor. A chilling sensation crept up his spine as Suho turned sharply. From beneath the bed, a familiar shape emerged, eyes glowing white-hot with loyalty and might. "It's been a while since I last greeted you, young monarch." Baru, towering, loyal, ancient, and kneeling now like a knight before his king. Suho's breath hitched. The world hadn't just changed. It was awakening with him. Suho stared in silence. His breath caught as Baru's words resonated deeply. The small ant's glowing form shimmered like an echo of a forgotten past. Its voice trembled with joy. "Young monarch, when did you grow up so wonderfully?" The words weren't just from a servant. They were from a guardian who had watched from the shadows. I am simply overwhelmed with emotion. As those words hung in the air, shards of memory, long buried, began to fracture and return. Like broken glass pieces reforming into a whole, Suho's mind began to flood with vision after vision. The memories weren't just faded impressions, they were vivid, powerful flashes of a life once lived among shadows. He saw himself as a child, smiling, laughing, surrounded by towering black creatures with glowing eyes. Baru had always been there, a protector, a friend, a companion through moments long since sealed away. "I know this, Aunt," Suho whispered, his voice caught between disbelief and recognition. The flood of images continued, each one a fragment from his childhood, of running down corridors, holding black, clawed hands, being shielded from harm. One of the black creatures from my childhood that spent time with me. And yet, the question gnawed at him like ice in his veins. Why have I forgotten it until now? Baru hovered before him, composed and proud, as if its very existence defied reason. "I, Baru, have crossed dimensions to meet you." Suho's brows furrowed, a deep confusion setting in. And why did I live with these black creatures during my childhood? His thoughts spiraled as he looked at the creature, at Baru, not with fear, but with endless questions. "I have so many questions." He leaned in closer, observing Baru with a mix of awe and disbelief. "More than anything, I don't remember them being this small in my memories." Baru blinked, flustered. "You're an ant, right?" A sigh escaped the creature. "It's because I spent a lot of magical power while crossing dimensions. Originally, I'm imposing and formidable, but the moment shattered as Suho glanced at the status screen floating beside him. The system window says minion rank?" Baru's face twisted in outrage. "Baru, level 1, minion rank. How dare the system treat me, Baru, a noble warrior, as a minion?" Suho chuckled at the absurdity of it all. The surreal reunion was equal parts heartfelt and bizarre. Still barefoot in hospital slippers, he moved from the bed and stretched. "Anyway, I owe my recovery to you, right?" Baru puffed its tiny chest with pride. "Despite my appearance, I am a very capable healer." And in that moment, among flowers, clean hospital sheets, and sterile lights, the warmth of an old bond began to bloom again. The monarch and his shadow, reunited at last. Baru's voice echoed gently in the room, full of reverence. His glowing eyes shimmered as he floated before Suho. "My purpose for coming here was to break your seal, young monarch, but to think you would break it yourself. I, Baru, am deeply impressed." "A seal," Suho murmured, his gaze sharpening. His memory stirred, fleeting glimpses of dreamlike battlefields, shadowy warriors, and power that felt too vivid to be imagined. "That seal, is it related to the dream I had?" Baru nodded, his tone solemn. "You may think it was a dream, but it was something you actually experienced. You were much stronger back when we fought." Flashes of memory flooded in, blades clashing, shadows dancing, his own strength overwhelming monsters. The memories weren't just dreams, they were real. Although the great shadow monarch, Jin-Woo, your father, sealed your memories and powers, wishing for you to live an ordinary life, the name sent a tremor down Suho's spine. "My dad." His hand tightened around Baru. "So you were connected to my dad, who left home." Baru's voice turned quiet, reverent. "He didn't leave home. He went to the universe." The weight of that truth hit Suho. "The universe? What do you mean?" To explain it simply, Baru began, his shadowy body beginning to liquefy, flowing onto the floor like liquid darkness. Images formed from the inky mass, shapes of celestial war, cosmic invaders, and a lone figure standing against it all. The great shadow monarch is fighting a war in the universe against invaders trying to conquer this world. A figure stood tall in the vision, familiar, powerful, cloaked in swirling shadows. Jin-Woo. Suho's breath caught as he whispered, "My father is protecting the world." Dark mist coiled around the quiet hospital room, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls. From within the swirling magic, Baru's voice trembled with gravity. He revealed a name, Iterum, gods of the outer universe. Their presence loomed like a curse, foreign and terrifying. Suho listened, each word unraveling the veil over a deeper, cosmic war far beyond Earth's comprehension. The black fog pulsed with urgency as Baru continued, declaring that these Iterim had begun sending their apostles to invade this world. The image conjured was terrifying, otherworldly monsters breaching the skies, their claws soaked in carnage, tearing through cities, their forms grotesque and unholy. Baru's voice sharpened. On his journey to find Suho, he had torn through countless enemies, leaving trails of annihilation in his wake. Suho, standing still in the fading light of his hospital room, absorbed the weight of this war in silence. His thoughts twisted. The sudden emergence of gates, the onslaught of demons, it all made sense now. These weren't random disasters. They were symptoms of a far greater conflict spilling into Earth's reality. He hesitated before asking the question that haunted him. So did my mother go with him? Baru blinked. A moment of confusion danced in his glowing eyes. No, he said, his antennae twitching in disbelief. He had assumed Lady Heian was with the Shadow Monarch, vanishing with him the day he disappeared from Earth. But her absence, unaccounted for, that changed everything. Realization struck. Baru's eyes widened in horror. His gasp echoed across the room, filled with dread. His form wavered with unease. Lady Heian went missing? The truth slammed into him. The Iterim had set a trap, a wicked, insidious snare hiding somewhere on Earth. The apostles must have orchestrated this disappearance. Their treachery extended deeper than anyone had imagined. Suho's eyes narrowed as the final piece clicked into place. This is because of those Iterim guys, right? His words weren't a question. They were a promise. A quiet, gathering storm. The weight of truth slowly settles in Suho's chest as he whispers the painful reality he's just begun to accept. His voice trembles faintly as he speaks. My parents are not returning. Baru hovers quietly by his side, solemn in the dim hospital light. Then his tone lowers, filled with a strange sense of duty and gravity. Young monarch, do you wish to meet them? Suho's fist tightens with silent resolve. Of course, he mutters. I have been alone for so many years. Baru doesn't flinch. If that's the case, there's only one way. From within the shadowy light, Baru's figure begins to shift, his voice echoing with steady purpose. Since my lord cannot come to Earth for a while due to war, you should find and rescue Lady Heian after you have grown stronger. Without delay, the air between them pulses. Magic ignites in a thin line from Baru's clawed finger, touching Suho's forehead with power. Let's level up, he declares. A familiar sound rings in Suho's ears. A notification window materializes in glowing golden frames. Notification, a quest have arrived. Quest details, Trial of Shadows, you are the son of the great Shadow Monarch. Currently, all your innate skills are sealed. To wield that great power, you must prove your own worth. Enter the Shadow Dungeon and prove your qualification. Then, another item manifests, a black, jagged key bathed in eerie purple energy. Item, key to dungeon, acquisition difficulty. Type, a key that allows entry to Shadow Dungeon. Can be used on Sung Suho's shadow. Baru speaks once more, firm and ceremonial. Insert the key into your shadow, young monarch. Suho looks down at the shadow at his feet, elongated by moonlight, and lifts the key high, his heart pounding with purpose. The air stills. His fist clenched, his jaw tightened. There was no hesitation. Behind him, the shadow creature floated in stunned silence, watching this fierce resolve unfold before its very eyes. Then, with quiet confidence, Suho raised the spectral key. The moment the tip pierced the shifting black veil of his own shadow, the surface rippled, distorting like liquid midnight. A surge of violet and indigo energy spiraled outward. The key dissolved into the darkness, and from it bloomed a portal, massive, alive, roaring with ancient power. As the storm of energy cleared, Suho stepped forward into the eye of the maelstrom. His figure was framed by the vortex of shadow, a lone silhouette about to walk into destiny. Now, go in and claim all the power that belongs to you, young monarch. The words hung in the air behind him as the gateway bathed the room in violet luminance. Yet, as he stood before the threshold of the unknown, Suho's thoughts drifted inward, swept up in a quiet storm of disbelief. I still can't believe it. The universe, gods, or beyond stars, the legacy of the Shadow Monarch, it all felt like a dream too vast to grasp. The Shadow Monarch, the war with gods, the universe, it's all so absurd. And yet, his feet moved. Forward. Steadily. Unshaken. Still, if there was even the faintest hope, if there was the slightest chance, if it's possible to meet again, if I can become strong enough, his thoughts painted a vivid memory, warmth, laughter, sunlight dancing through autumn leaves, and the smiling faces of his mother, his father, and the world he lost. He walked into the darkness to reclaim the light. In the vastness of a realm cloaked in divine stillness, a voice, regal and solemn, echoes into the silence. My lord. The command comes with grave purpose. Baru, go to earth and break Sung Suho's seal. Beneath the flickering light of ancient power, Baru bows low, reverent. You mean the young monarch's seal? A deeper dread blooms as crystalline darkness spreads across the chamber. Yes, the Iterim's invasion might have already reached Earth. A surge of urgency electrifies the air. The order is clear: restore the power. Restore the memories sealed within Sung Suho. Let him awaken, not as a boy, but as the one destined to protect this world. For the rest, the voice declares with quiet trust, you are permitted to act at your own discretion, based on the situation on Earth. Baru watches as the swirling light of a summoned portal begins to engulf the young man now standing before him. His own thoughts swirl just as violently. Own discretion. If you are leaving it to my judgment, images flash in Baru's memory, Suho, bloodied and fallen. A haunting image, unshakable. It fuels something deeper. I, Baru, will remain by your side and watch over the young monarch's growth. Lightning and shadow coil around Suho's form, the energy of awakening merging with his silhouette. He stands tall and still at the edge of the rift, as the gateway to destiny opens wide. And then, with a pulse of power and the sound of the vortex roaring to life, Suho vanishes into the light. The world beyond Earth begins to shift once more. The world he had just stepped away from vanished behind him, its lights, its rules, its silence, all replaced by a ripple in space. Suho emerged from the vortex, breath steady, eyes sharpened. Shadow energy danced in coils across his body, trailing like smoke as he landed on the unfamiliar ground. The portal pulsed softly behind him, a swirling memory of the world he left behind. Baru's voice echoed with eerie gravity beside him, reverent and absolute. This is the land of the dead, where the living cannot tread without the master's permission. Suho's eyes narrowed, taking in the grim terrain around him. Cold wind drifted across the desolate horizon. The atmosphere was thick with death, shadows clinging to broken forms of buildings long lost to ruin. The very air seemed to hum with ancient power. Baru hovered close, its gaze fixed forward, unwavering. This is the Shadow Dungeon. Before them stretched the remnants of a forgotten city, warped and twisted by time. The ground cracked with age, overgrown by invasive roots and crawling darkness. Fallen skyscrapers leaned into one another like solemn tombstones. Blades were embedded in concrete, remnants of battles fought in silence and never remembered. The skies above churned with purple stormlight, illuminating this decaying world with a ghostly glow. The silence wasn't still, it was watching, waiting, and Suho, heir to the Shadow Monarch, had just taken his first step into it. So this is the Shadow Dungeon, he murmured inwardly. Yet what stood before him wasn't the twisted underworld he imagined. No, it looked more like the remains of a ruined metropolis swallowed by time. There was a strange pull at his chest, a shiver of something unspoken brushing against his memory. I don't know why, but this place feels familiar, he thought, eyes narrowing. His steps were slow, deliberate, as if the very earth whispered forgotten echoes beneath his feet. A flicker of golden light jolted to life. A system notification appeared before his eyes. Quest, survival. The message etched itself into the air with unyielding finality. Survive for 4 hours. Confusion flared in his gaze. Survive for 4 hours, he repeated aloud, voice low and taut. From behind, Baru's voice rang with caution and command. Stay alert, young monarch. And then, the calm shattered. A thunderous cry tore through the sky. The trial has begun. In a heartbeat, monstrous figures erupted from the darkness. Goblin-like beasts, twisted and feral, descending with savage hunger. One lunged down from above, crimson eyes glowing, axe raised high for a lethal strike. Suho's body tensed. His eyes widened, frozen not in fear, but in the realization that the trial was real, and it had already begun. Reflex overtook thought. His body twisted, narrowly avoiding the strike. Eyes wide, He spun midair, heart hammering from the narrow escape. Suho let out a breath. Oh, that scared me. But the threat wasn't gone. Goblin burst from the darkness, snarling through jagged teeth. Its name shimmered faintly, Goblin Scout, as it clawed across cracked stone toward him. Suho stepped back instinctively. A Goblin Scout, he echoed aloud, voice tightening. Baru floated beside him, its glowing eyes narrowed. If it's a scout, there might be others around. The thought sent a shiver through Suho's spine. There was no time to hesitate. Then we need to take care of it before it calls for its companions. Baru's words rang with urgency, but Suho was already moving. Young monarch, Baru's voice crackled with surprise. Suho's eyes narrowed. This guy's name doesn't have a color. That means it's similar to or weaker than me, he thought, muscles tightening. With a swift motion, he sidestepped the goblin's lunge, arms snapping up to catch the creature's axe mid-swing. Sparks flared as he disarmed it, the weapon tumbling into his grip. You have obtained, item, Goblin Stone Axe. The system message glowed briefly as the axe responded to his grip, heavy but balanced. No time to admire it. He gritted his teeth, raised the axe, and prepared for the next strike. He strikes the goblin with thunder's speed. In one strike, the goblin has been defeated. Suho stands over the corpse of the defeated Goblin Scout, calm yet calculating, pointing toward the evidence left behind. Look at this, he mutters, piecing things together. Stronger opponents had colored names. His eyes flicker with memory, visions of previous foes with glowing identifiers flashing through his mind. Understanding dawns. Oh, I see. But that moment of reflection vanishes just as quickly as the tension spikes again. His loyal shadow flickers wildly beside him, alerting him as more movement erupts from above. The sharp cry of an approaching goblin reverberates through the air. Suho turns, expression tightening as another scout hurls itself down with reckless speed. But this time, it's not alone. Suho's eyes sharpen, glowing faintly in the dim light. It seems there are other scouts, he says grimly. And then, more footfalls. He hears them before he sees them. Dozens of them. The darkness of the dungeon peels back to reveal a greater horde, an entire regiment of goblins, surging forward like a green tide. They were no longer testing him. They were hunting him. And this trial had only just begun. Suho turned toward the floating shadow beside him, his voice edged with expectation. You'll help me, right? But the dark wisp, flickering faintly in the dim light, only offered a calm refusal. I'd love to help, but the shade's voice echoed with restrained detachment. Since I'm far from you, I can't replenish my mana and need to conserve my strength. Suho furrowed his brow slightly as he listened. Besides, the shadow continued. If I join the battle, the experience points you gain will be significantly reduced, young monarch. Glancing around as goblins began to encircle him from all directions, Suho sighed with dry irony. So you're saying you won't be of much help. Above him, the twisted towers and root-wrapped buildings of the Shadow Dungeon loomed like the walls of a ruined fortress, stained by the hues of old battles. The ground trembled with movement. With a fierce screech, the enemy surged forward. Let's put that to the test, Suho muttered, eyes narrowing. Mana ignited around his hand, a fierce blue aura wrapping around his fingers like a second skin. Suho spun fluidly, a single sweeping motion taking out multiple goblins in a flash. His strikes were clean, efficient, every motion a dance of raw instinct and honed reflex. His breathing steady, Suho's eyes flicked to the status window hovering in his mind's eye. The skill listed glowed faintly. It was the ruler's authority. It feels like I've gained an invisible hand, he murmured. The system echoed in response. Skill, ruler's authority level 0.1. Active skill. Mana required. None. You can physically influence objects without directly touching them. A sudden whistle, an arrow cut through the haze. Suho twisted just in time, deflecting it mid-air with the same invisible force. He traced its origin with sharp focus and locked eyes on a distant silhouette crouched in the shadows of a broken ledge. So there's an archer too, he said coolly. With his fingers tightened around the arrow, Suho's voice rang out, calm yet resolute. Then I'll give it back to you. His body surged forward like a coiled spring unleashed. Electric blue energy spiraled from his limbs, forming a vortex of pure motion around him. The arrow in his hand gleamed, propelled by the force of his strike, as he flung it like a javelin through the air. The archer goblin had only a fraction of a second to realize its doom. The moment of impact came in a flash, steel met flesh, and a shriek tore through the battlefield. In the wake of that flawless throw, the little wisp hovered behind, watching intently, its single eye pulsing. His adaptability is remarkable. The shadow gaze drifted to memories long held, images of Suho as a child, unknowingly wielding terrifying strength. Even then, the spark of inherited power had flickered inside him, the force of the monarch coursing through a body barely able to contain it. The young monarch's infancy is like the extraordinary birth story of a hero from myths. The weight of that legacy had been evident even then. From birth, Suho could command the ruler's authority, manipulating the world around him with invisible hands of dominion. What had seemed like childlike wonder was, in truth, a glimpse into boundless potential. Yet that same power, originally meant for annihilation, had no place in a peaceful world. It lingered, dormant, a burden more than a gift. The world, for a time, had no need of destruction. But peace never lasts forever. Now, with the apostles of Iterum flooding through the cracks in reality, Earth had become a battleground once more. And in this new chaos, the sleeping dragon finally opened its eyes. The young monarch's power had begun to shine. In a storm of steel and force, Suho cut through goblins like a whirlwind. A glowing notification blinked before him. "You have leveled up." Suho's eyes widened slightly, catching the shift within his body. Faster, stronger, sharper. The weight that can be lifted with the ruler's authority is limited to about 10 kilograms. But then, the blow lands with brutal force. From the depths of the cavern, a guttural growl echoes. Red eyes gleam with fury as a monstrous goblin with bared fangs and gnashing teeth claws forward. Chapter end here. For more, like, share, and subscribe.